Many countries have taken action at a national level to prohibit the use of asbestos, from which at least 107,000 people die each year globally. Asbestos refers to 6 unique minerals and was also referred to as the magic mineral, as it had so many different applications due to its fireproof properties. A mineral whose magical qualities allow it to resolve various problems and yet produce so many unexpected consequences. Asbestos occurs naturally on every continent in the world, and archaeologists uncovered asbestos fibers in debris dating back to the Stone Age. Asbestos manufacturing was not a flourishing industry until the late 1800s, when the start of the Industrial Revolution helped sustain strong and steady growth of the industry. That's when the practical and commercial uses of asbestos became widespread. A town in Russia is named after asbestos and is still actively mining the mineral on a daily basis. Asbest has a population of around 70,000 people, and most of its residents rely on the jobs that Asbest provides in the Ural Mountain region in Sverdlovsk. Over 6 miles long and 1,000 feet deep, it is the world's largest open-pit mine. Asbest is filled with asbestos to the point that you could start collecting it from the ground. Asbestos pollutes the air so much that residents shake their clothes off the racks before taking in laundry from their back gardens. However, life in Asbest seems to be as ordinary as living in any other city. People in Asbest are so used to living in these conditions that they are not even afraid of the consequences, and walk about the edge of the open pit mine taking pictures with family and friends, living as though these harmful diseases will not affect them later on in their lives. The city has even adopted a new flag a decade ago that includes thin white lines symbolizing asbestos fibers cutting through a ring of fire. The municipal anthem, when translated, is named Asbestos, My City and My Fate. Asbest residents work in either the asbestos mining industry or the neighbouring factories. Asbestos has been used in thousands of products for a vast number of applications, especially in the architectural and construction industry, such as roofing shingles, water supply lines, and insulation materials. They also utilise asbestos cement materials for their buildings and for the structures in the city. However, what's changed from the past is that they claim that asbestos cement materials they use in buildings is left unexposed, therefore not causing any harm to the occupants. A revolutionary law came about in September 7, 2011 as a result of WHO and NGO pressure for hygienic requirements for asbestos production and use, as well as asbestos-containing products. It recognises the occupational hazard posed by crystallite asbestos and crystallite-containing materials, the need for protective measures, and the health and safety of workers. The occupational safety measures include those needed during the refurbishment and demolition, and the health of workers in the asbestos industry to be monitored for life, including during retirement. However, the Russian Ministry of Health does not consider the new law as a change in the Russian policy on asbestos claimed by Russian Crystallite Association, and is opposing any initiatives to raise awareness on asbestos threats.
Вот это все и пыль. На окнах везде пыль. Это же асбест. И в любом и химикаты также. Мы просто не видим. И вот любое предприятие, да любая работа, она вредная для здоровья человека. Вот. Ну, не помирать же.
There have been 15,000 asbestos-related deaths between 1950 and 2020 in Asbest, Russia. Out of the 45,000 people enrolled to work in the mines, 35% have died. Workers run the risk of developing cancers daily, such as lung cancer and mesothelioma, from inhaling asbestos fibers at their workplace. These are among the most common types of cancers recorded from asbestos exposure. In fact, every 10th lung cancer death is closely related to risk in the workplace, including in the chemical industries. We need to establish registries of people with past or current exposures to asbestos and organising medical surveillance of exposed workers in Russia, and provide information on the hazards associated with asbestos-containing materials and products. Despite the repeated warnings of long-term health problems, the asbestos business is booming for Royal Asbest, the mining company in asbest. Demands remain strong from India and China, while the supply from other countries has dwindled. The environmental impacts of the asbestos industry can be devastating on the overall welfare of the whole population. From contaminating air, water and soil, the area has been exploited for production of asbestos will become unsalvageable, and the environmental problems of the extraction of asbestos are completely ignored. The area of 27.5 kilometers squared pollutes nearby water sources to the neighbouring towns of Izmir, Maliyesheva, Revtinsky and Yekaterinburg, as well as leaves a permanent scar on the topography. This aquatic transmission is less lethal in comparison to the airborne transmission of asbestos particles. The concentration of asbestos particles, especially crystallite, exceeds the international norms by a trifold. Whilst having an open pit mine in Asbest, the particles flow from the open pit towards the west due to the prevailing winds. The transmission of the particles can contaminate agricultural fields and damage the Holocene layer. 45% of food produced for the town comes from the neighbouring fields, which questions the future death rate due to asbestos exposure. The disadvantages and everlasting damage of the asbestos industry will be visible for many years to come. The town of Asbest will fall, but the question is at what cost? We can imagine a world where Russia could still produce asbestos without any danger to any living creature and the earth, where particles are not airborne, inhaled and damaging the Anthropocene. Imagine applying this negative pressure on top of the open pit mine. Would that solve the condition in which people live in today in Asbest? That may be the case, however, it will not manage to control these dangerous fibres once they have been handled and transported from country to country across Asia without particles being exposed in the atmosphere. Asbestos belongs deep in the Earth's crust without disruption.